breaking through those stubborn blocks. Have you ever felt that no matter what you do and how much you desire a change for your life, there is just one thing that you cannot pinpoint that is just keeping you stuck? How frustrating. I know this is so frustrating because I've been on this path of soul mastery of myself for the past 6 years, and I have grown so much in that time, and I am so grateful for my experiences. But there seem to be, as far as I've come on my journey and shifted so many limiting beliefs, there seemed to be just one stubborn little block that would not budge. And boy, it becomes so frustrating. And so today, this is why I'm here, because I have broken through that stubborn block, which has been a major change in my life with how my now life moves forward. And that major change is no longer ever again attached to limiting beliefs. How wonderful is that? So this is what this message is about. So I'm going to give and share some of my tips a little later in the video, but I just wanted to start from the perspective of where you might be sitting and feeling you are within your life. So we need to go back and relate it to you so that I can try to bring the aha moment, or at least give and provide encouragement for you to keep going. Because whilst even on my journey, and I'm going to be honest, I am so devoted to my spiritual expansion of myself and coming into my highest soul mastery so that I can actually bring and do what I'm meant to do this lifetime, that it has been a journey day and night, absolutely, really doing everything in my power to make my life the greatest life that it can be. And I am so overjoyed to be finally in the position to actually have made this breakthrough. And I've been wanting to share this for a while now, but I guess for me, I need to be able to feel like, one, people are ready to receive it, and two, I guess I really wanted to be clear how I articulated that without it being coming from an egotistical point of view, because that's key to how I've become the person that I am today. So anyway, this message, you don't have to be grieving for this to be relevant to you at all. However, all of my work is directed towards those who are grieving, particularly grieving the loss of a loved one. And that additional focus is anyone who has experienced loss and trauma loss. But today's message, which is just as relevant for people who are grieving, because in our world at the moment, there are many grieving, many different circumstances. And so this is where I'm now drawing my message for anyone that is grieving the loss of a life that you once drew so much meaning to and connection to, and feeling now confused and not knowing how to move forward. But also my message is for those, because I believe for anyone that's aligned with my message, it is for the people, it is those who are yearning, there's this deep yearning that you know there is something greater for you, but you just haven't pinpointed it yet. And so with that yearning, you need to move through a lot of change to be able to get to that point. It may take a little while, a couple of years, before you even understand what your purpose is. And the word purpose, yes, gets thrown around, and it's not a fancy word. It's not a pie in the sky, like, beautiful dream. We all actually have an absolute purpose for this lifetime, whether it's just a personal thing or something that you are meant to bring into this world. So here I am, starting from the point of, you may have been this soul that has been on a journey up until now, really doing the work within for your soul mastery, but you've hit a stubborn block, and for the life of you cannot work out what it is or why you can't shift it. And this is what I'm here to share and hopefully help you to move forward. So you might be a person who is grieving the life of a life once lived and feel that is all falling away and disintegrating. Could be the life connected to people, places, or things. It could be, as an example, you might be grieving the job that meant absolutely everything to you. You put so much of your life up until this point into that one job because it was purpose for you at the time. And then all of a sudden, none of that makes sense to you. And you're confused, maybe lost, and don't know how or what it is that you're meant to be doing moving forward. But you do know within you, you are desiring a deep change. And that's perfect because you know. And if you're determined, you will find a way to work out what that is, especially if it's aligned to you yearning a meaningful life. You might be also a person yearning or grieving's the word, not yearning, grieving a relationship that once was, a relationship also that gave you so much meaning and purpose. You and this other person or people in your family or friends might have had this beautiful connection where everything meant everything to you. You built your life around them, and now all of a sudden that's gone. It doesn't make sense. You're not resonating with this person anymore. There's a couple of reasons for that. One, out of the pair of you in that relationship, one is going to be probably more evolved consciously, who has already been up until now already looking for new ways to live in this life. You might have become interested in spirituality and you're on this path of exploration. And this path of spirituality, going to maybe meditation circles and doing all these different things within the spiritual community that your partner's not really interested in doing. And so this is the shift. You're consciously moving to a higher vibration, or they are, and because there is this shift, one's actually moving further forward than the other one, because the other one hasn't reached the same point of decision that something needs to change, or that you're just starting to find that you're interested in other things. And that's totally okay and normal. So if you are this person, yet you're feeling confused from whatever feels that is disintegrating within your life at the moment, you will more than likely be feeling deeply saddened and confused and lost and not really sure how to move forward. Maybe you have already started the path and the journey forward, and you just know that something has to change for you to actually be able to get to the next level. Something actually has to go. We do have to let go. And it might really just be so confusing that you have to let go of people in your life. It could be family members. That feels really hard for many of us. I know it did for me. But until you understand that we're only born into a family. When we're born into a family, it doesn't mean that they have to be with us our whole entire life. But that's another story for another time. So keeping on track, you might be a person that, because you are fresh on your spiritual journey, that all of this doesn't make sense, but it will in time. And so the other thing when we're going through these changes is we tend to think we've done something wrong. And I just want to clarify that you have done nothing wrong. You've made no wrong decisions, because everything in life has been perfectly orchestrated. The people have come into your life so that you could get to this one point. You're now about to go to the next point, and you need other people to journey with to get to there. So everything, the people, the places, things in your life up until now has been a journey of soul mastery. Whether you understand that or not, it actually has. So this whole journey is about you stepping into your highest conscious self so that you can live and be fully present in the world in a more loving and authentic way, because that's the way the world is shifting. And I speak about this in other videos. But you are exactly where you need to be in this present moment. I want to bring some tips to you now about this journey, about how you can break through this stubborn block. Because for the life of you, it's been something that you have just constantly tried to shift. You know quite a lot of what needs to go, as in the limiting beliefs. You understand what the limiting beliefs are. You understand where they came from. You understand how they became programmed. You understand all of that. You've accepted that that's what you don't want anymore. But there is just something that keeps you stuck. And it's exhausting. I know, I've been there. But I have reached this breakthrough. And it does take a lot of effort. And sometimes when you are able to just be by yourself with no external distractions, that will allow you greatly to be able to evolve to where you need to be. And I'm going to give a slight example. So my whole entire life, to try and keep this brief, has come to a point when my son passed, that these past 6 years, that loss of my son was my pinnacle moment. This was my kick up the bum from Mother Earth, and it was the kick up the bum that I needed to push me into my higher conscious self. At the time, I would not have agreed with anyone who told me that. But because I've done so much work, I understand so much about this life journey that it was definitely my kick up the bum. Because if I kept living my life how I did, with all the meaning that I gave it up until that one point when my son passed, then I would have just probably went further down the rabbit hole, further and further away from where my soul self needed to be in alignment. And so there's much for me to teach on that spiritual journey, which will come out gradually through my work, but definitely comes out in my signature mentorship. But this one moment was the kick up the bum. Okay. And so what I was alluding to was, at that point, because of my experiences, I chose that before anything else came into my life, I was absolutely committed to working on myself. And I've done that for the last 6 years. And some of you might think, 6 years, I'm not going to bloody work on myself for 6 years. Well, then that's okay, because you're not on the path of soul mastery. And this is where my work is valuable, because my work is aligned to those exact people that know through the similar experience of mine that they are on a path of soul mastery, or if they don't immediately know it, they know that their whole life they have yearned and known deeply within that there was something greater for them, but they've never been able to pinpoint it. And so if you reflect back on your whole life, you will have seen and known, because I know for myself 1,000%, I knew there was something greater for me in this lifetime. It just took me forever to try and work it out for whatever reason without getting into that. So you will know that you're on this path of soul mastery of yourself. And with that comes a role to serve humanity. And I call it compassionate action, where I turned that loss into absolute meaning. But before the work and my selfless work and my most unique, beautiful, oh my God, I was just passionate about what I bring to community, this work required me to go on this journey. And yes, it has been for the past 6 years. It's because I'm serious about where I'm going for me personally. Number one is me and what I am needing for my soul in this lifetime. And I'm well and truly on track. It's just amazing. But I had to get through blocks, and I had this one stubborn block. And this one stubborn block, it was literally, I was reaching a point of defeat because I really couldn't, I was really struggling to shift from it. I knew everything that needed to change. And without getting into all of that, the continual work that I took myself through day and night, spiritually within, not externally going everywhere for the answers, that's an important step. You might start on that, and that's okay. That's actually important. I encourage that when you're on the beginning part of your path, to go out and externally receive information. But on that journey of your soul mastery, you must then reach a point where there's no more external information required, and you actually fully step within yourself. And so that for me really took me on this breakthrough. And so the shake-ups and the wake-up calls is the universe guiding us, and it's a continual evolving journey. It does go straight forward, but it also takes us on lots of detours. So this journey is paramount in the sense that when you find yourself in a circumstance, an upheaval in your life, a relationship breakdown, a job loss, whatever it is that you're going through that I've previously mentioned, it's really important that if you have been on this journey and you haven't been able to shift this one thing could be that I'm trying to be, how do I say this? So this it's important that you don't dwell on that experience, because what I see, if you have been on this journey and you find I have to go back a step, so please forgive me. So the best way to explain it, you've been on this journey, say, doing everything that you think possible to change with what you feel needs changing in your life to better your life. But you seem to be just stuck in this box, stuck in a cage, for example. Now you can't, you might have found that you're coming out of the cage, you go so far, and then you get drawn back in. So that's okay. It's frustrating, but that's also part of the journey, because there's still something that you're either fearing or afraid to experience. And when we're afraid or whatever it is, we get pulled back into the old stories. So one thing that I was trying to say was it's paramount that when we're going through our experience of loss of any sort, a job, a relationship, a loved one, whatever it is that's happening in your life, that we don't dwell on this experience, this upheaval. Yes, you do need to go through some sort of understanding. That will happen anyway. The logical brain will kick in because it's trying to make sense. But it's important not to stay there, because you need to move beyond that fairly fairly quickly if you can. If you're a resilient being, you generally will be able to bounce back and not dwell and sit in that space for too long. So to do that, you will receive one small learning, I guess, from that experience. So when you're reflecting, you're trying to make the logic sense of what's happened and taken place and why is this happening. You've got to get to that at least one point of receiving a learning. It might only be small. It's not going to be all of the learning for you to receive. But once you've just got enough strength within you to then start to move beyond it and take action forward, then as you start to go along the journey through this action step of just this baby step forward, the rest of the learnings will start to unfold for you. So you might not know everything. You might not know how to go forward. But as long as you just kind of take that one step where you think, okay, I'm just going to do this tomorrow. And if I do this, this will lead to this, and it will lead to that. And then you just keep going and navigating your way. And then as you start to receive the learnings, what's powerful is, and I don't think it takes that long if you're deeply connected within, aware and awake, that you will reach a moment, as in an aha moment, and then it all makes sense. Oh my God, it's like, now I get it, which is exciting because you finally understood what the lesson was. And now you can really start to take charge and start to move forward. So that's one thing. Don't dwell on the experience for too long. Receive a small learning, and then that will bring more and more learnings as you start to move forward. And then you'll come into that aha moment. So the other important thing is, on this journey of soul mastery, that would tell me that you're connected to the divine source. As I am, I'm connected to all the masters. I cannot believe how much help I get. It's just freaking phenomenal. And so it's important that you constantly ask them for their guidance, because they are there and they cannot help until you ask. So that is your masters, all masters, anyone that you feel aligned to. It could be Gandhi that you're aligned to. Call him in. You might be aligned to Mother Teresa. Call her in. Ask for her help. It's literally any master or spiritual or angelic being that you feel connected to, you can call upon. It could be that you just want to go direct to the source and ask God for help. Ask him, okay? They're there. And God, I guess, even when I say that word, I can already sense people's energy to that, because there's been many of us that don't believe in a God. So all that aside, just know you have the divine source, the universe, backing you 1,000% when you trust it and have faith. Now, they're two words that I feel they're two important words that I want to share, and the reason why I want to share trust and faith, because this whole journey for the last 6 years, I believe I have trusted and allowed all of the seeds to come in, and I have actually followed my seeds to the point that I sold my house. I sold my house and took guidance, received guidance, and followed that seed to where I thought I needed to be. Now that's huge, right? To me, that's trust. Trusting what I heard. It's like one day I'm getting a message to sell my home. You're going to India, da 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 da. That alone for anyone to do, I don't think there would be a whole lot of us that would follow that seed, because we wouldn't trust our intuition or the message that we received. And that's okay, because that's powerful, right? But I knew in my heart where I was headed. And so every seed, as ridiculous as it may sound, as long as I felt it was my truth, I followed it. So the trust and faith is super important, but also the trust and faith, there were many times where I felt I was let down, where the divine source gave me lemons. It's true. And it's really important to be able to trust that process when you feel like you're getting the lemons as well. Did I get my intuition right? Am I really reading these messages correctly? That's a whole journey on its own. But trust and faith is super important. And your path will unfold through all of that experience of the seeds, taking baby steps, trusting whatever guidance you feel you might be getting, and so forth. But the trust and faith, there's something I want to share in relation to that, in the sense where I felt that it wasn't working for me. So I was on this journey, committed, even to this day, even committed, even higher now, a higher commitment to my path of self and connected to the divine source. But this journey of trust and faith, I used to get so many messages when I was navigating, I would say the war zone, navigating the minefield. I used to get lots of messages, trust and faith, and it got to a point where I was just getting tired of hearing trust, have trust. I'm like, I'm trusting. What do you mean? What does this trust mean? Oh my God, when you can, for me, that would be different for everyone, but the meaning that I finally was able to understand with that took me to a place of surrender. And I don't know how much to share about this. So the place of surrender, this is where I had my breakthrough. So the trust and the faith, I guess I can only share an example to try to help you understand what I'm trying to say on a deeper level. So the trust and the faith, I'd been on this journey, bringing through my most amazing work for the community, and it's been a long journey. One important thing is when we're fresh on the spiritual journey and we start to receive seeds of messages, you may even receive visions. It can be confusing. And so I did trust all of that. And the thing with the logical brain that we as humans do, which is not beneficial for us moving forward, not always, is the logical brain. When I got a message, I immediately assumed that whatever the message was, so for example, when I came back from India and I was looking for my home, I had this vision of what was coming to me. I expected it was going to come like tomorrow. And that's probably something that is important to understand, is when we do start receiving all of our guidance and we're tuning in and we're following the seeds, when you do get a seed, it doesn't mean it's going to happen tomorrow, doesn't mean it's going to happen next month, doesn't going to mean that it's going to happen in 6 months. Sometimes Spirit has just planted a seed for you, and that vision may not actually come into effect for another year or 2 years down the track, maybe even 5. I've actually heard another person, when they received this clear vision, it was 5 years later. And this is the thing that's important. It can, as human beings, when we think logically, when we're expecting something, like it's like, okay, Spirit, you said this was coming, where is it? And we feel like things then all of a sudden aren't working. We start second guessing ourselves. We start going, am I confused? Did I get it wrong? We start second guessing our intuition. Like, what's gone? We start actually doubting ourselves, and we start falling back into this trap of the limitations So if you've had a life where you doubted everything or you felt like you were not enough, you go back into these stories where you get pulled back into the cage of, oh, I'm not enough. That's what it is. That's where I can make sense. This is what my nervous system remembers. No, you're not enough, so you don't deserve that. That's why it's not happening. But it's not true, because this is, I can't stress, there's so much to this journey that I just want to share with everybody, that when you're on this journey, that's actually not true. And this is what Spirit kept doing with me. Trust, have faith, trust, have faith. Because I was reaching a point where I was expecting something that was going to come in, boom, tomorrow, or 6 months at least, or within a year. And then it didn't happen, and things weren't sort of flowing. And I was just like, I was almost reaching a point of defeat. And I was just like, what the hell? And so these were these messages of trust and faith, that this life that we are living, yes, we're here living it, but honestly, things, if we're not energetically aligned, and if other people and places and things need to be within our alignment for our path to continue, those people and those places and those things, they're actually like into the future. Some short term, some long term. And so that's what we've got to remember, is on this journey, okay, Spirit gave me a message. This is amazing. Thank you. Be grateful and go, okay, I'm hoping it's tomorrow. But maybe what I've learned now is like, okay, it might not be now. So I'll put in some motions to get the ball rolling. And when we're aligned and we've done enough work, I guess, to release these limitations and fears, everything falls into place. So this trust and this faith message that just kept coming, it was really teaching me actually quite a lot, how much I wasn't either trusting my intuition, because I fell back into the doubt. So I went back into the old stories. And that's understandably so, especially for many who have had really challenging lives. And we fall back into, oh, I'm not enough. That's why it's not happening, because our nervous system wants to take us back there. The ego self wants to take us back there and keep us in this cage. And so when you can really understand what's actually evolving around us magically, it's freaking amazing. So I reached this point of surrender. I got to this point where I was hoping things had been further along, and because it wasn't happening how I logically saw it, and there was more things that I needed to learn on my journey, and there was other things that needed to be ready to come into my existence, that then the breakthrough happened. This breakthrough in particular was when I understood what the trust was and what the faith was and what was actually happening, because there was a lot actually happening externally. When I clearly understood, this is like this huge aha moment, everything just changed. Everything around me just fell away. That was a limitation. And then the new path just opened. So we hear this many times. I've heard this so many times. People say this. I'm like, why is it happening for me? Well, if you're on this soul path of mastery, it is happening. The thing is, we need to step back from ourselves and our logical mind and our linear way of seeing things and allow it to unfold. So when you feel things aren't working for you, everything is magically working for you, because the path is not, it is forward, directly forward, but it goes on detours. So I get sent on a detour and I have to go over here and take a left-hand turn because I need to meet this person who's going to show me something that I need to change within me. Or you might actually just be, what I felt as well on these little detours is sometimes I actually had some spiritual work to do for people, selfless spiritual work to do for people, because I was being asked by Spirit to show up and show them what they needed to see within me so they could make some changes. And everything is just orchestrated so beautifully. And then I come back into alignment. Sometimes we don't know why we're meeting this person. And then all of a sudden you think it's one thing and it's not. And it's just like when you realize what it is that's taking place, it's a blessing. It's an absolute blessing. And then you come back in and you're on your little merry way and something else comes in, something positive, something is being shown for you to learn. And it's just this continual involvement. So your path is forward, but it goes off to the left, it goes off to the right, it goes over the bumps, it hits a trough. And when you can trust everything that the universe is bringing to you, either a lesson or something that you need to do to help somebody else, everything in life brings another opportunity as well, then we start to really see the truth. And when we can surrender to that, then energetically we have raised our standard, which is one of my tips I'm going to get into in a minute. You've raised your standard of living and being and acting in this world. And these raised standards where you do not tolerate the limiting stories and beliefs, and you completely surrender to the universe and to God, the Creator, and all the divine source, that they've got your back and you're being led beautifully where you need to be, then everything just completely opens up to you. It's magical. And so I have reached that point through all of those experiences and understandings. But I feel, even just in my last week communicating with a few people, I feel one thing that many of us that find that can be a block to this stubborn thing that won't shift from our energetic being, is that we're not standing in our power enough. As much as we try and we think we are, and you probably are, this one thing that I'm about to suggest is, there's probably two things, but this one thing is we need to raise our standards of ourselves. We really do, as I spoke in earlier videos of the year, we really do need to understand our values and our beliefs. That's huge to really understanding how you make decisions, right? But that aside, this one thing of being able to raise your standard of what you will tolerate in your life and what you no longer accept is a huge opportunity for you to make huge shifts within your energetic being. I'm going to give an example. So to raise your standards of yourself, when I was, I guess, in my feeling stuck with this one thing that just would not shift, and as much as I had thrown every angle and every understanding at it and tried everything to move beyond it, one thing that I hadn't really made a decision upon was what I was not going to tolerate in my life anymore. I think that's huge. Well, it was for me. So this is why I'm sharing it. And this one thing, so if I've been this person that is just was trying to shift this one thing, and everything that I threw at it and knew what needed to be done to change it, and it still wasn't shifting, and somehow it just kept pulling me back. Don't know how it kept pulling me back. Well, I do know how, and at the time I didn't. I'm like, it just didn't make sense. It was that point of surrender for one, to fully trust spirit. It's just like, okay, I don't know what I'm doing today. Okay, I have a general idea of what you want me to focus on and bring into the world. If there's something else, please show me. So I had a general idea of what I needed to focus on because I know where I'm heading. And so that was just one step. But what am I trying to say here? How do I say this clearly? Let me just think. I think so I don't go off on tangent. Is raising our standards. I could see that I kept getting pulled back into the box or the cage. I could clearly see somehow I just kept getting pulled back into these limitations. And so it was just this one decision. She's like, you know what? I don't freaking tolerate this anymore. This is not acceptable. I was very adamant. I was actually very strong and with conviction every day since, because I had to change a habit every day since. I made a decision from that point of surrender that I was not going to tolerate the limiting beliefs or the limiting experiences anymore, because I had already known, I'm already being committed on my path of soul mastery. And this one thing, I was just like, no more, just like freaking no more. And when you reach that point of no more and you do surrender and like give it up to the universe, everything shifted for me. But it did take that one decision to commit to myself. I didn't realize there was a part of what I was trying to create I actually wasn't committed to, because there was actually a fear attached to it. I hadn't been able to see it. And I had to get really clear with the universe to let the universe know what I was committed to. It was so powerful. The commitment. I knew clearly what I was achieving, and I told the universe that I would not tolerate the limiting beliefs, the limiting stories. My past is no longer attached to me. Cut. It's gone. And when I made that decision, yes, and many of you can say, oh, I've done that. But honestly, you may have to a point, but not fully. And that's what's keeping you stuck. And this shifted and changed everything. Everything fell away. And I knew, I could feel my energy change within my body. I knew I was free. It's been phenomenal. And that's why I share. And I actually had to go through that experience because it's also part of my journey. Because my signature mentorship, this is a powerful journey of soul mastery. Yes, grief is the experience that is bringing people to me, and people will most definitely be aligned to having a very similar vision with their life, knowing they are here for something greater, and I'm here to teach them. I'm here to show them through all of their life experiences to bring them into such a place of forgiveness and self-love and gratitude and a connection to source, opening up your intuition, connection to the afterlife, if that's something you're interested in. Most people that have lost loved ones, everyone, it's a common thing actually. that we actually want to know where our loved one's gone. So that's part of the journey. But I take everyone on such a soul mastery. How can I do that? The only way I can do that is to have experienced it. And so Spirit's been putting me on this journey to become a spiritual teacher, in the sense on so many levels. And this here even is a huge part of how I teach you to break through these barriers, especially if you are so committed to reaching a Christ conscious level for this lifetime. Now, there are many levels of consciousness, or actually the levels go up. It's not just one step. If you are true about reaching a higher level of consciousness but not sure and understand what that even looks like, I can show you. Because I've just been on such a magical and powerful and profound journey in the last year, with spiritual teachings, to raise the level of my service and my work, to bring through a powerful message from God to everybody. And so, that's all just part of it. So I had to go through that experience. And so I know how to now break through these barriers that when we've had such a challenging life, and you are a soul that keeps doing the work, you have just literally day after day, challenge after challenge, risen every single time. That's because you are here for a major purpose, the most beautiful and loving service that you are to bring into this world. And so today I share this just for everybody, because I think if anyone is finding that they're stuck with not being able to shift past something, these just few tips that I've shared today will help you. So let me try to paraphrase these tips. So once you're on your journey of soul mastery, follow the seeds. Sometimes you feel like you're getting lemons, but they're actually a powerful message in the lemons. Your path, whilst it is going forward, will actually detour you left and right and over bumps and up and over hurdles and into troughs. It's all part of the journey. It's all part of you getting soulfully stronger within. If you have a mission, a life mission and a purpose for humanity, then you are on a very special journey. You must travel through all of these troughs, through all of these learnings. You must travel and release all of these fears, the ego self, because this is what you have to become victorious over, is the ego mind. Because once you start to lift your game, to live more consciously and more lovingly, well, part of that journey is the ego goes into fear and wants to keep you in fear, so it's going to lift its game and make it harder for you. Doesn't make sense, does it? But trust me, there's a purpose for that. So know that your ego self, which you can never, the idea of the ego is you will never release the ego self, but you need to be victorious over the ego self where it doesn't control you. Then following your seeds, you get to these points. Every lesson, understand every lesson has a meaning. Don't stay too long in those low experiences. Receive the learning and get up and keep going forward. Continually find another way as you navigate this path forward. And then with that and all of those experiences, you must be so willing and committed with effort and determination and a willpower to no longer tolerate and accept a life of limitations, and knowing and believing 1,000% that you are worth more than what you might be previously seeing yourself as worthy of. So raise your standards. No longer commit and Command your cells, your body, command your body. It's energetic. Command the water in your body to vibrate at such a higher frequency. Doesn't matter if you're not there yet. You need to actually you have to believe you are there now. Sometimes it just messes with your brain. And raise your standards. So no longer, from this day forward, if this is one thing that you can take, no longer tolerate the limiting self of the ego, the limiting beliefs. Literally, you need to put that into the universe with absolute conviction, with your staff planted in the ground, and tell the universe what you're committed to. When you know what you're committed to, then Mother Earth will bring it. I hope that's been clear. I hope my message has come across in a way that you are able to understand my message. It is powerful. This life that we live is amazing. It's joyous. Yes, I've heard time and time again people say life is wonderful, and you might be feeling from where you're standing or sitting that it doesn't feel wonderful. You need to believe that it is and it can be. So you need to start thinking more positively. And no matter how many lemons you get, you just keep going forward, because you will receive and you will achieve the breakthrough. I know it. You can. If I can do it, you can do it. I share with love. I offer you many blessings, and I hope you have the most peaceful, the most joyous day, and that you can put your staff in the ground and you can stand strong with conviction that you no longer tolerate a life of lack and a life of limitations, and see yourself greater than you are. With love, thank you for listening.